Hello, and welcome to our webinar on the Data Buddy Survey presented by the CRA Center for Evaluating the Research Pipeline, also known as CERP, whose mission is to promote diversity in the field of computing through evaluation and research. My name is Heather Wright. I'm the Associate Director of CERP.
And I'm Evelyn Yarzabensky. I'm a Research Associate at CERP.
We make up part of a larger team of 4, who also includes the director, Borchin Tamer, as well as the research assistant, Colin Carnes. So we'd first like to start with giving an overview of what the Data Buddy Survey is. So the Data Buddy Survey is an annual survey that collects data from current students in computing-related fields. And what we mean by computing-related fields is, say, computer science, but also say information technology, software engineering, any field that has a strong computing component to it. It's also a survey that tracks these students' educational and professional development over time. And you might wonder how we do that. So at the end of the survey, students volunteer to complete future surveys from the CRA at the end of the survey. And what that means is they provide an email address. We ask for both a primary and secondary email address. And then that's how we track students over time. In a year or so, we'll provide another survey to them and ask them some additional follow-up questions. So what are the types of questions in the survey? So we include questions related to students' characteristics, psychosocial measures, as well as some educational measures. Some examples of student characteristics are their math and science, computer science background, information about their demographics, such as their gender and disability status. We also ask about their family background. We also include questions related to the sense of belonging and self-efficacy. So how confident they feel in their ability to be successful in computing. Do they feel welcomed in computing? Their satisfaction with the department, as well as their perceived support structures, such as getting support from a mentor or advisors, as well as their peers. Finally, we also collect information about their academic and professional interests and achievements. So we would like to know about students' goals for their future, activities that they're engaging in to support those goals, and their perceived skill sets. So you might wonder how much it costs. Data Buddies is free for your department. We're very grateful for our funder, the National Science Foundation, and that is what they're funding, free for your department. It takes students an average of 20 to 25 minutes to complete the survey each year. And finally, we offer an incentive to students. So CRA will raffle off 10 $20 gift cards to Amazon, and that's among all the students who complete our survey each year. So you might wonder, what's in it for your department? Well, we provide a free report every year. And on the right-hand side of your screen, you will see an example of the executive summary we provide in that report. So we have that type of information in a visualized format, as well as pages of tables where you can see your students' data alongside a comparison group of students at similar institutions. So this information complements data that you can get from your university, such as application data, information about acceptance rates, attrition into your program. It can help you better understand your programs as well as your students at a more general level and a specific level. And finally, it provides that comparative data that can support proposed changes for your department. So it's possible that you can use your department report to go to your department chair, your dean, provost, to support reasons why you might want to make some changes within the department, because this report provides some evidence and reasons why you might want to do so. As well as the report, Data Buddies can be included in your departmental BPC plan. If you are aware that the National Science Foundation Science Directorate has an initiative to help support broadening participation in computing efforts, departments are encouraged to create departmental BPC plans for the department as a whole and faculty submitting proposals to size. The Data Buddies project can help support that plan as part of your data collection and evaluation efforts. You can visit our page on the BPC Net resource portal by going to the URL on your screen.
So what will you need to do as a department participating in the Data Buddies survey? So after you volunteer for the survey, and we'll share a link for that at the end of this presentation, you need to dedicate at least one person to be the contact person. The person that volunteers does not have to be the person that is the contact person, but you can be. And we encourage the contact person to be either the department chair, department faculty, or department staff. If the contact person is not the department chair, we do include the chair on important emails such as the final report at the end and other updates, but we send most of our emails to the person who is the contact. Additionally, we send 2 to 3 emails per year to remind students to take this survey. So we leave the survey open for a few months during the survey cycle, and the student only needs to take the survey once. So in case students plan to take the survey but have not yet had the time, those reminder emails come in handy. And as a reminder, the more faculty or staff involved with the project as contacts, the more likely you'll have a strong response rate. And so you may ask, how do I get a strong response rate? Well, we've talked to some departments over the years who have had strong response rates and have asked them some of the things that they've done. And we're going to share some of their tips. So the first one is emphasize the importance of the survey to the general computing community. So students' responses will go beyond just themselves. Their responses will help inform research on issues relating to computing education as a whole. But more specifically, you can also emphasize the importance of the survey to your own department. Students' responses, in addition to adding to the research on the field as a whole, can also help you and your department figure out how to better serve your own students. We also suggest that you share that the survey comes from the Computing Research Association, which is a reputable organization. And your sharing that information may make them more likely to open the survey when they see that it comes from us. Faculty or department chair reminding students to take the survey may also be helpful, and they can emphasize those first 3 tips that I just mentioned. And as I said before, number 5, send multiple reminder emails. Sometimes students just need that extra nudge. Some departments have also found it helpful to allot 15 minutes at the end of class to allow students to complete the survey. Most students can complete the survey in this timeline, although some do need a few extra minutes. The departments that have done this have tended to find some success in greater response rates. For those of you that are meeting in person, we do have a QR code that we can send to you. So you may find it useful to post that around the department or the building to allow students to access the survey through that QR code. Another helpful approach is for the department contact to nudge the students beforehand to say, there's going to be a survey coming in 1 to 2 weeks. Just be aware of it and be prepared for it. And we find that that can be helpful, that students are aware that it's coming and then they're more likely to respond. Next, although this is not required or in any way obligatory, some departments like to provide an extra internal raffle or incentive where students are awarded something from the department for their participation. SERP and CRA does not manage this process, so we're not involved in that aspect, but if you like to do that, that's something that you can do as well. You can also use synonyms for surveys such as feedback or poll. And finally, most importantly, distribute the survey when you think the timing is right for your own students. So as I mentioned before, the survey is open for a few months, and when we send the survey, might be right in the middle of midterms for you. So we don't encourage that you send it during midterms, right? Because students will be busy and less likely to respond. So if we send it and there's something happening in your department, or you know that your students need a few weeks to finish up a big project or a big exam, you can wait those few weeks and then distribute the survey at that point. And we find that sensible timing, from someone in the department who's aware of what's going on in the department tends to also lead to successful survey completion. So I mentioned the timeline for Data Buddies. In general, the survey cycle on a given year starts around August and September, where we make IRB preparations, and I'll talk about that a little more in detail in a second. In mid-October is generally when we release the survey, and we leave that open through November and December, where we ask the department contacts to remind their students to take the survey. In January, the survey ends and we close out the survey. And at that point, the SERP team is very busy internally cleaning the data, running analyses, and preparing the department reports, which generally get released in May at the end of the spring semester. And throughout the year and the survey cycle, we always appreciate updates to any contact information or student estimates, which helps us make sure that we can accurately calculate your response rate. We also appreciate any feedback about the recruitment process or any experience that you have working with SERP so that we can improve the experience for other departments as well. We also appreciate feedback about your department report, things that you found useful or not useful, or things that you wish that you could see in future department reports. We love hearing from our departments and from our department contacts, so please do get in touch. The IRB preparations that I mentioned in the last slide happen in August and September. Data Buddies has its own IRB approval from an external IRB called Solutions IRB, but we find that some universities and institutions require additional review. So when a new volunteer asks to join Data Buddies, we get in contact with every institution or university IRB to make sure that they have everything that they need to make a determination. And we handle all of those preparations unless the university IRB requests department involvement, which is very rare.
So over the years running the Data Buddies survey, we've encountered several frequently asked questions that we'd like to go over today. One of them is, what is a good response rate?
So that is a tough question to definitively answer, in part because the type of departments that participate is very broad indeed. We have some smaller departments with only a few students, and we have some larger departments with hundreds of students. So it's hard to really nail down what a good response rate is. So what we encourage you to do is remind your students as much as possible, and do encourage them to take the survey.
Another question we often get is, can we add our own incentive?
Yes, so as I mentioned in a previous slide, while it is not required and it is not obligatory, you can add your own incentive, and that administration of that process would be on your end. And speaking of department reports, can I request a different comparison group for my department?
Great question. So the answer to that is yes, you can request a different comparison group. As we mentioned earlier, we like to compare your department to similar institutions. So if you're at an institution that awards bachelor's degrees, then your department report will include comparative data among students who are also at those types of institutions. But there might be a comparison group that is really valuable to your department and would help you better understand your students' experiences. So for example, we have some departments that award a degree in computer science as both the Bachelor's of Arts as well as the Bachelor's of Science. So we work with that department in advance to come up with a good strategy for how best to collect that data and then provide that comparison group at reporting time. We can also use data that doesn't necessarily need prep beforehand. So for instance, you might be at an institution with a large number of international students. So we could, for example, have a comparison group based on citizenship status. So absolutely, we can work with your department and what the needs are. As we're nearing the end, we'd like to share a few fun facts about SERP and Data Buddies. So as I mentioned earlier, Data Buddies receives funds from the National Science Foundation. These are grants awarded to the Computing Research Association to do this work, and we're very appreciative. Since 2013, over 200 departments have participated in Data Buddies. And this year we have approximately 145 active departments. Between 2013 and 2019, the survey collected approximately 75,000 total responses. That's a big number. And you can contribute to that number by joining Data Buddies today. And you can visit our website at www.cra.org/serp/volunteer. If you have any questions about this presentation, about Data Buddies more generally, and how to get involved, you can send your questions to serp@cra.org. Thanks for joining us.